Some of the extraterrestrial races are creating hybrid children. They are creating a hybrid race. They are combining the genetics of humans and extraterrestrials. I was shown a child that was about 6 years old. She was very humanoid looking. Actually, she had freckles, which I thought was very distinctive and very odd. And my first thought was, oh, you're a little chubby, and my Earth children were very thin at your age, and I know you're my child, but you have freckles. She knew who I was. She didn't show very much emotion. I had a very loving feeling toward her. I sent her love all the time, a mother's love that she probably doesn't realize that I have sent to her. As a mother, I knew I could never take her home, but I was very grateful for her existence and for the fact that she was very content with her life, and she wanted me to know that, and that was the purpose for the visit. I haven't seen her again, but I know that I still send her love all the time. I think that they're creating these children in case we blow ourselves off this planet or pollute ourselves off this planet. Maybe they're creating bodies that can survive on planets that are very different from the Earth.
I had an experience when I was 23, which I remembered the next day, almost entirely in its full. I remember sort of floating up out of my position in the bed and rolling over on the fingertips of these aliens. They floated me out of the bedroom and through the kitchen and down the hallway and out the door. Out from the wall across from me came this device with a hose attached to it. It just sort of floated out. And one guy picked it up, and there it was, coming up here kind of between my legs, and I was naked, and I thought, oh, I don't know about this. And I looked at the guy, and I told him, you know, again, I am not talking, but I told him, are you going to do what I think you're going to do? And he said, yeah. And I said, all right, okay, do it, you know. And they attached this device between my legs, like they didn't have to get me aroused or anything. It was just sort of like going to the doctor and peeing in a cup, you know. Maybe they took a urine sample as well, or only a urine sample, but they took some sample. And I remember just sort of feeling some fluids leaving my body, but not feeling anything else, just sort of sitting there and waiting, and that was it. And this thing went away and into the wall. They floated me back into the room and laid me down on the bed. And I don't know how long it lasted, probably not long. So I think that there's maybe a hybrid sort of project going on. And I think that that could be because they're dying, or that could be because they want to come to Earth and be able to walk around and live. And maybe their bodies are too fragile to do that right now, so they need to kind of, you know, become a bit of both.
I knew in an instant that it was my son, and I felt very good because I knew that I'd be allowed to touch him. And he actually put his arms around me first, and I put my arms around him, and we just held each other. And we held each other for what seemed like a long time, but in actuality it was probably just a few seconds. And I could feel, even though he didn't say anything, I could feel this love for him because he knew that I was his father. The tall female gray came over and said I had to go. I did not want to leave, but I didn't have any choice because the next thing I knew, I was back in my bedroom, standing up in the middle of the room, and I was crying. For a solid week, I went around just with this great depression because I have 3 regular children, and And even though I'm divorced, I can call them up and see them anytime I want to. And that's the greatest feeling for a parent. After this experience, I told my wife, and it was so comforting knowing that even though she did not understand, she wasn't telling me that it was my imagination, it wasn't my fantasy. Finally, here was someone that I loved, that was close to me, that was telling me, that was letting me know and showing me that they weren't thinking that I was lying or that I was crazy. I don't know what's going on with you, but I'm here to help you through it. A human cannot give me the pain, emotionally or physically, that these beings have done to me. It's hard enough surviving the human reality, but you can't be weak surviving the human reality and the alien reality. You got to be strong. And it's my friends, the ones who I owe my sanity to, and my wife and my family who've supported me. It's been a blessing because I've opened my eyes to new realities. I no longer look at life strictly from a human perspective. I'm looking at it from their perspective too. My view of life has extended past this earth into the universe. I do not credit the beings for the blessing. I can credit the human race for the blessing. When I cried, it was a human that comforted me. It's a human I share with. It's a human that's exploring this, not the beings at all.
I had grown up feeling a great deal of terror and a great deal of actual victimization from my experiences. Being taken by them and not knowing what was going to happen. A lot of times I thought, is this it? Is this the end of my life? What are they going to do? What's going on here? I came to a point and a realization that I am now in touch with something that's greater, larger than my old world that I had once known. And to say that I really, truly, ultimately understand a lot of what they do, I can't say that. But I feel much more comfortable about it.
My first husband was quite fearful of what was happening. He didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want me to talk about it. He didn't want any of this to happen. It was during those years of raising my children and trying to be a normal working part-time mom and trying to keep a marriage together. And in the meantime, having all these encounters, it was a very difficult time in my life. Very difficult time. When I first met my second husband, I knew that I had to tell him who I was because I would not go through another marriage where I felt stifled and where there was fear about this. We had talked about getting married, and he said to me, "Is there anything that I should know about you before we get married? I don't like surprises." And I said, "Well, not much, except that I encounter UFOs and I've been abducted by aliens." And he looked at me and he said, "That's really interesting. I'd like to hear more about that." So he was very open to it. He'll tell you that he doesn't understand all of it, but he gives me the freedom to be who I am, and that's all I ask. And I love him dearly because of that.